Hello and welcome back to Peninsula of Paradise, where we talk about how to turn your Florida home into a launchpad for financial growth, stability, and peace of mind. I'm your host, John Tanner, licensed real estate broker, former certified residential appraiser, and mortgage broker, and your guide to navigating the Florida housing mortgage market with clarity and confidence. Today's episode is for anyone who's thinking about buying, refinancing, or tapping into their home equity. It's called the Realtor's Eye: how property value impacts your loan options. Now, today is a special day here in North Florida in Jacksonville because if you live up in North Florida, you know that it's the Florida Georgia game. So, at the end of this episode, I'm going to let you know what team I'm going to be rooting for. You might have here's a little hint, right? You might have an idea based on the colors that I'm currently wearing, but I'll clarify that at the end of the show. All right, so today we're going to talk about how your property's value, that number every homeowner keeps an eye on, can make or break your ability to qualify for certain types of loans, rates, and terms. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how appraisals work in the loan process, why value matters more than ever in today's market, what to do if your appraisal comes in low, and how to maximize your home's value before you refinance or sell. Let's start with the big picture. Property value is the foundation of every mortgage decision. When you apply for a loan, whether it's a purchase or refinance or a home equity line of credit, your lender uses the property's appraised value to determine two critical things. First, how much they're willing to lend you, and second, what your interest rate will be. This relationship is called the loan to value ratio, or LTV. It's simple math. It's if your home is worth $400,000 and you're going to borrow $320,000, then your LTV is 80%. Now that 80% mark is the magic line. Let's call it a bright line rule, where most lenders feel comfortable offering the best terms. If your home exceeds that ratio, you might pay higher interest rates, and you might be required. Most often, you're required to carry what's called mortgage insurance. You have to pay MIP, mortgage insurance premium, or PMI, private mortgage insurance. MIP applies to FHA loans and PMI is for conventional loans. Now, as a former certified residential appraiser, I can tell you that valuation is both an art and a science. Appraisers use a combination of data, local market knowledge, and professional judgment to estimate your home's market value. Here's what they typically look at. Recent comparable sales within a half a mile to a 1 mile radius of your property. Now, if you're in a rural area, they can go up to 5 miles. Condition and upgrades. Have you updated the kitchens or the bathrooms and the flooring and the roof and the mechanical systems like your HVAC and your plumbing and your electrical? If you have outdated living spaces like the kitchen and the bathrooms, then it's called functional obsolescence. It works, it's functional, but it's obsolete, it's outdated, it doesn't match what the market wants, which you can see a price difference by comparing a property that has that green or yellow bathroom from the 1950s compared to a modern day kitchen. All right, so that's the condition and the upgrades. Then there's the lot size and the location. Corner lots have a higher market value. Proximity to an elementary school has a higher market value. Properties that are on the water have a higher market value. And then there are the amenities. You may have a house in a subdivision that has no amenities, and then you may have a house in a subdivision that has great amenities like a 24-hour fitness center, or maybe the clubhouse has a restaurant or a golf course, right? If you're in a yacht or a flying community, that has premium values. And then you have market trends. That market trends are whether the prices are stable and flat, are they rising, or are they declining? What's the market doing? What's the days on market for our property? Are they 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months? What's the turnaround? One thing I always remind homeowners is that your appraised value isn't what you think it's worth, it's what a qualified buyer on the marketplace would likely pay under current market conditions. That means that sometimes your online estimates, like a Zestimate from Zillow, or your neighbor's sell price won't always tell you the full story of what your home is worth. Now, let's talk about how this affects your financing. Your property's appraised value impacts your loan approval. Did the property appraise properly? It'll determine your interest rate and your fees, and sometimes your ability to refinance at all. Here's three examples. Example number one, refinancing. If you're refinancing a home that you bought 2 years ago and the appraised value comes in lower than expected, your new loan to value ratio could exceed 80%. And that will bump you up into a higher interest rate tier, and it may require PMI, like I mentioned before. Example number two, a cash out refinance. Let's say that you want to pull out $50,000 in equity to fund your business or to consolidate your debts or to pay for home renovations. And if your appraised value drops less than what you thought it was, then that could shrink how much cash you can access. Maybe you don't have $50,000 in equity that you can tap into. Maybe you only have $25,000 of equity that you can tap into because the market prices are declining. That could be an issue. And the third example is for home equity lines of credit. So a lender is going to base your available line size based on the appraised value minus what you currently owe on your first mortgage. So a higher value means that there's a larger available line of credit. You have more equity, more credit is available. Less equity, less value for your flexible HELOC loan option. All right. So what happens if your appraisal does not come in where you hoped it would? It's not the end of the road. There's a few things that you can take, a few steps that you can take to ensure that your property is going to appraise properly. Number one, if you already got the appraisal done, you want to review that appraisal report carefully and look for errors. They may have missed some square footage. If it's incorrect square footage, that has an impact on the value. If they missed any upgrades, comparing it to the comparables in the marketplace, maybe your house has superior kitchen and bathrooms that are worth more in the marketplace. Or maybe the comps are outdated. Maybe they're using a comp that sold 9 months ago or 12 months ago, and there's a comp down the block that sold 3 weeks ago, So looking at the comps, if you can provide better comps, sometimes you can ask a mortgage broker to help you submit what's called a reconsideration of value, which will be provided to the underwriting department so that they can look at your fresh data, like that 3-week-old comparable sale that would increase the market value of your property. So just giving them additional recent sales in the neighborhood is helpful, very, very helpful. Another thing that you can do is you can make strategic improvements before the appraisal happens. So if you're planning to refinance in let's say 6 to 9 months, then maybe some small upgrades like a fresh coat of paint, some nice landscaping, and fixing some deferred maintenance will help boost your perceived value in the marketplace before the appraiser comes out and does the inspection. That's really important. Again, the best thing that you can put your money into, in my prior professional experience, is kitchens and bathrooms. Kitchens and bathrooms are some of the things that boost up property values when you're looking at comparable sales. So in other words, if you have two comps, one of them has a new updated kitchen and the other one has an old one from 30 years ago, the one with the new updated kitchen will sell for a higher sell price. Of course, that has to be confirmed by looking at the actual sales and determining what the price difference is. Maybe and sometimes it could be an over improvement. So maybe the homeowners that did the improvements, maybe they spent 50 grand to update their kitchen, but the market showed that house only sold for 30 grand more than the house down the block that didn't have the upgrades. So out of pocket expense was 50K. But the market said, well, we're only willing to spend $30,000 more for those improvements because that's what the sales price shows us. So you have to look at what the other prices are, the difference of a house with improvements and a house without improvements sold for. Look at the price difference and you can determine where's that price difference coming from. Is it because they have a new kitchen, or is it because they have a swimming pool in the backyard, or is it because they're on a lake or a preserve? You have to look at those things to determine where the value was allocated in the price difference. And then you can make your decision on how much you want to spend on improvements. But making any improvements should boost your value. Again, up to a certain point. So you want to make sure what the market's doing is going to give you back what you spend before you spend it. So you spend wisely. And the last thing that you can do is you can just wait it out, wait for the market values to come back up if you're in a declining market before you do that debt consolidation or refinance or use that money for starting your business. You can just wait for the market conditions to improve and then reapply for that home equity line of credit or second mortgage. And in a rising market, if you wait 90 days, you could see a significant difference. Again, that's when the market conditions shift. So you have to wait and see. Sometimes like in the Great Recession, it could take 2 years before you see improvements. But hopefully at some point you will. And like we saw with post-COVID, we saw some radical improvements in home valuations in Florida. All right, moving on. Here are some strategies to maximize value before you refinance or you sell. If you think like a realtor and act like an investor, you'll have no problem with this. You don't have to do a full renovation to boost your value. In fact, most appraisers would not give you a dollar for dollar credit for your over improvements, as I explained previously. But they will reward you for your overall condition, your market appeal, and the livability of the property. Here are some best return on investment options for you in your Florida home. Fresh paint and curb appeal, updated kitchens, bath, energy efficiency, cleaning, decluttering, and personalizing. With regards to getting your home ready to market, like if you're going to put it back on the market, first impressions count, especially in appraisal photos. Updated kitchens and baths, even minor updates like putting new fixtures in cabinet hardware makes a big difference. Really makes it look pretty. Energy efficiency, putting in things like smart thermostats and impact windows can greatly reduce your energy bills, and having an efficient HVAC system. All of those things add measurable value over time. So again, if you're saving money on a monthly basis on your energy expenses, then those energy efficiency items, the cost benefit analysis will show you if it's worth spending the money. Another thing is to consider cleaning, decluttering, and depersonalizing if you're going to put your house on the market to sell, because appraisers are human, and a tidy home with bright lights communicates care and pride of ownership. So open up the window curtains, take off the family photos, and your house will look more appealing when you're marketing it, when you're getting ready to sell and capture as much value as possible. Remember, appraisers compare your home with other homes in the marketplace. And if your house is the cleanest and most well-maintained house on the block, then you're already ahead of the comps. Now, let's talk about the Florida factor. One thing that's unique about our market here in Florida is micro location impact. Two homes just one block apart can have a vastly different value based on the flood zone, HOA restrictions, and even short-term rental eligibility. That's why working with a realtor who truly understands valuation and not just marketing the home is critical. I call it the realtor's eye. It's that instinct that's developed over years of studying neighborhoods and watching market patterns, understanding homeowners association covenants, conditions, and restrictions, and interpreting appraisals in a way that helps you make smarter real estate moves is invaluable. And when you pair that with a solid understanding of lending, wow, that's where the real strategy begins. All right, some closing thoughts. Here's the takeaway. Your property value is more than just a number. It's the key to unlocking your financial options. Whether you're refinancing, you're pulling out equity, or you're buying your next home, understanding home value, how it's determined, and how you can impact it, and how to protect it will give you power in the lending process. If you'd like to find out more about how your home, what it's worth in today's market, and how your home will measure up against comparable sales, or if you want to explore your refinancing options, reach out to me and I can put you in touch with a lender. We'll take a look at your property, review your goals, and build a plan that works for you and your family, not just for now, but for the long run, and not just for your lender. Thanks for joining me today on Peninsula of Paradise. Be sure to follow and subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and LinkedIn so that you never miss an episode. Now, before I go, I'm going to let you know what team I'm rooting for. Ta-da! Georgia. And here's why. Although I grew up in Miami and I've lived in Florida for almost all my life, I was born in South Georgia. So go dogs. Don't hate me now if you're a Floridian and you're rooting for the Gators. You know how it is. There's a lot of us Georgia implants up here in North Florida. All right, my friends. Until next time, I'm John Tanner, and I'm reminding you that paradise starts at home. See you next